3 years after marrying Han Yenming, the heir to the Ding'an marquis, I still bore him no child. Just as the physician detected the pulse of pregnancy and I was overjoyed to share the news with my husband, he returned with the daughter of a merchant. He declared his love for Su Suyuan was true, and he would never subject her to the indignity of being a concubine. He demanded a divorce. In my past life, I caused an uproar over this very matter. Prince Han Yenming took that merchant's daughter, Su Suyuan, and left home. He was gone for 3 years. And I lived as a widow in my own marriage, bearing the wrath of my mother-in-law. She used every method to humiliate, trample, and torment me. The child I bore? At the age of 5, he was beaten to death by his own father, simply for offending his beloved. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment Han Yenming sought our divorce. The little maid Magpie, having bribed the doctor, chattered around me incessantly. The Bodhisattva has blessed us, mistress. You're finally with child. Magpie will go tell the young master and the old lady the good news right away. Let's see who dares call you a barren hen now. At this, she covered her mouth and quickly spat twice. Mistress, don't listen to the servant's foolish talk. I laughed coldly. Of course I wouldn't heed the servant's words. In my past life, I truly believed it was mere gossip from the servants. I considered myself generous to them, never skimping on rewards. I couldn't understand why the servants of the Ding'an marquis's household never showed gratitude to their mistress. Instead, they whispered behind my back, spreading all sorts of nonsense. They said I was barren after 3 childless years, a hen that wouldn't lay eggs. Worse still, they whispered that my beauty meant I wasn't one to keep to my station. I once overheard the old maids murmuring, "If you ask me, our young mistress looks all bewitching and seductive, with that hint of spring in her eyes. Doesn't seem like a proper young lady from a good family." Someone nearby quickly asked, "What does she look like then?" With looks like hers, she's more like a courtesan from the brothel, the kind who uses her beauty to ensnare men. It's our old lady's fault for not investigating properly when seeking a match. Was this Jiang family's legitimate daughter even born to the main wife? Hearing this, I nearly fainted from rage. But what could I say? That old nurse was part of my mother-in-law's dowry. Later, I learned that my mother-in-law, constrained by my status as a Jiang family daughter, wore a perpetually smiling, saintly facade in public. Behind closed doors, however, she was cunning and vicious. At first, things were tolerable. But later, because I remained childless, she began secretly stirring up trouble. I had always believed that a mother-in-law should show consideration to her daughter-in-law. Even if she didn't treat her like her own daughter, for the sake of the family, she shouldn't grind her daughter-in-law to death. Later, I came to understand that when a daughter-in-law is too accomplished, certain petty-minded mothers-in-law would harbor resentment toward their daughters-in-law. Worse still, they feared that an outstanding daughter-in-law might usurp their authority in managing the household, undermining their prestige. My mother-in-law, Lady Zhang, was precisely such a person, with a mind as shallow as a puddle. My thoughts were still racing when an old servant announced from outside, "Lady, the young master has returned and commands you to come to the front hall for a meeting." My lips twitched at the old servant's choice of words. Commands me? Shouldn't it be invites me? Of course, I said nothing at the time. Supporting Magpie, I replied, "Understood. I'll be right there." After the servant withdrew, I warned Magpie, "Whatever happens next, you must never reveal I'm with child. Understand?" My hand instinctively drifted to my belly. Magpie nodded, seeming to grasp yet not fully comprehend. In the front hall, my mother-in-law, Lady Zhang, sat regally at the head of the table. The heir to the Ding'an marquis, Han Yenming, stood tall and graceful, one hand still clasped around a beautiful woman's. Their fingers were intertwined, their demeanor intimate. Even in front of elders, they showed no restraint. I entered the hall, first bowing to my mother-in-law, Lady Zhang, saying, "Greetings, mother." Then, I bowed to the heir, Lord Han Yenming. "Jiangying, this is Su Yuan." He hurriedly pushed the girl forward to me. I smiled, feigning ignorance. "Whose daughter is this? She's quite the beauty." Su Yuan shook off Han Yenming's hand, pouting indignantly. "Han Yenming, what do you think you're doing? You promised to bring me back today to confess to Jiangshi that you intended to divorce her. Now you introduce me to her like a concubine? Isn't that humiliating me? I may not have many demands, but you can't trample my dignity. In my past life, I would have turned on him immediately. Forget divorcing his wife. Even if this woman were to enter the household as a concubine, she'd be a lowly one, never a favored concubine. But in this life, I acted as if I hadn't heard a word. Wide-eyed and innocent, I looked at Han Yanming and asked in surprise, "Husband, you want to divorce me?" Han Yanming opened his mouth, then after a long moment, said, "Jiangying, I'm sorry. Su Yuan and I love each other, and she's carrying my child. I can't let her suffer." As Han Yanming spoke, my maid Shichue shot him a withering glance, about to interject. But I hastily silenced her with a stern look. Shichue, brought from my natal home, naturally placed my interests above all else. Seated at the head of the table, my mother-in-law, Lady Zhang, cleared her throat softly. After a pause, she spoke in a deliberately affected tone, "Jiangying, it's not for a mother to criticize her daughter-in-law, but you've been married to my son for 3 years and still haven't conceived. I've sought out renowned physicians and gathered rare herbs for you, yet you refuse to take them. Do you intend to leave the Yinding Marquis's household without an heir? As the saying goes, of the 3 forms of filial disobedience, failing to produce an heir is the greatest. With your delicate ways, even your mother cannot help you. In my opinion, since Su Yuan has already conceived Yanming's child, she is already the eldest son's wife. The Su family is wealthy, and their daughters are not like those bought from lesser families. Making her a concubine truly is a hardship for her. Why not simply bring her in as an equal wife?" I lowered my gaze. An equal wife? Dream on. As for the so-called divine physician and potent medicine my mother-in-law, Lady Zhang, spoke of, I knew nothing of it at first. She had it brought to me. Since it was medicine specially procured by my mother-in-law, I drank it. Only after I drank it did I learn what it truly was. Sow's urine. Mother should know, I said calmly, that according to the calendar of our great Zhou dynasty, a primary wife who bears no children within 7 years may only take a concubine for the sake of offspring. It's only been 3 years, I deliberately stated loudly. Instantly, my mother-in-law's expression darkened. Su Suyuan's face also changed. Just like in my previous life, Su Suyuan began to quarrel with Han Yanming. "Han Yanming, what do you think you're doing? Making me a secondary wife? You promised me a lifetime of devotion, growing old together. Now you want me to share our love with another woman? If you don't explain yourself clearly today, I'll abort this child immediately and never see you again." With that, Su Suyuan turned to storm out. Han Yanming hurriedly caught her in his arms, pleading, "My darling, don't be foolish. You're carrying our child now, you can't act recklessly like before." His gaze turned to me, filled with helplessness. Then he addressed Lady Zhang, "Mother, Su Yuan will never accept being a concubine. I've returned today to convene the ancestral hall and dissolve my marriage to that Jiang family girl. I absolutely will not allow that Su woman to enter this household." I smiled softly, yet my stance was utterly unyielding. I married into the Han family, yet after 3 years of childlessness, I now request to leave. I implore the Crown Prince to write a letter of divorce, for my return to my family is the proper course. I stated this with crisp precision. Seeing my resolute stance, my mother-in-law, Mrs. Zhang, grew visibly flustered. Su Suyuan, however, sneered coldly, "Jiangying, is this your tactic, retreating to advance, forcing me to become Yanming's concubine? Let me tell you, it's absolutely impossible. You don't understand the bond between Yanming and me." I nodded calmly. "I truly don't understand your bond with Han Yanming. But I will never share a household with a woman who took a man without a matchmaker, behaving like a courtesan. You are unworthy. Han Yanming, for the sake of your true love, your Suyuan, write that divorce decree now. I'll wait for you in the rear courtyard." With that, I took Magpie by the arm and walked away, deliberately ignoring my mother-in-law. Through past lives and this one, I've endured her far too long. Once we reached the rear courtyard, I immediately ordered Magpie to summon Wang, the wet nurse from my dowry, and have her dispatch messengers to my father and elder brother. My father held the high office of Minister of the Secretariat, while my elder brother served as tutor to the Crown Prince. Though not of Marquess lineage, we were a distinguished scholarly family of the court, one wielding genuine power. I, Jiang Ying, possessed the confidence I deserved. Thus, in my past life, when I heard Han Yanming intended to divorce his wife, I was so enraged I was speechless, causing an absolute uproar. This lifetime, I shall naturally cause an uproar once more. The difference from my previous life is this: then, I refuse to consent to the divorce. This time, I will force Han Yanming to divorce me. Come evening, mother-in-law Zhang came to my chambers. I pretended nothing had happened, instructing Magpie to pour tea, which I personally presented to her. She chose her words carefully. Jiang Ying, I know you come from a scholarly family and are most well-read and sensible. Yanming is a scoundrel, but that Su family daughter already bears my Han family's child. We cannot let her wander outside. If word got out, it would be improper. As she spoke, Lady Zhang added, that Su family daughter, though a secondary wife, is still beneath you. I lowered my gaze, a faint smile curving my lips, gentle and alluring. Let mother know this, I am a jealous woman. Had I been present, I would never have allowed her entry. Therefore, mother, say no more. If you wish that Su family daughter to enter our home, then swiftly grant me the divorce papers. Madame Zhang likely never imagined I would state outright that I am a jealous woman. Women of our clan are renowned for virtue, talent, and magnanimity. Daughters of distinguished families are raised from childhood to conceal their feelings. Even if they harbor 1,000 unwilling thoughts, they would never utter the word jealousy. You. Zhang suddenly stood up, pointing at me. Jiang Ying, don't be so ungrateful. Don't think my son truly dares not divorce his wife. Then have Han Yanming quickly give me the divorce papers. There's no need to ask the old marquis. I stated directly. Fine. Zhang was so furious she swept her sleeves and stormed out. 7 days later, I obtained the divorce papers as I'd wished. There was no other way. That Su woman was formidable, relentless in her demands. She insisted on being the primary wife, the main lady of the house, refusing to settle for being a secondary wife. As for me, I stood firm. If Han Yanming intended to marry that Su woman, he must divorce me first. Otherwise, the moment that Su woman dared set foot in the door, I would kill her. Han Yanming and I argued for 7 days, causing a 7-day uproar. Now, rumors swirl outside, with everyone buzzing that Han Yanming is a hopeless romantic, daring to divorce the daughter of the Minister of the Secretariat for a merchant's daughter. Some praise Han Yanming's devotion. Others say the merchant's daughter is shameless and eccentric, openly embracing Han Yanming in the marketplace. They even claim he kissed her and groped her behind in public, no better than a prostitute. Still others argue Han Yanming bears no blame, the fault lies with Jiang, the daughter of the Minister of Rights, who has failed to produce an heir in 3 years. After all, the house of Ding'an Marquis couldn't be allowed to die out. It seemed that Jiang, the daughter, was simply relying on her father and brothers holding high positions in the court, thinking herself superior and throwing a tantrum. But the heir of the Han family was a true man. When he said he would divorce her, he truly did it. Divorced? It's already been reported to the authorities. I held the divorce decree, reading it word by word, smiling. My little maid, Magpie, however, had tears welling in her eyes. Miss, what are you doing? She cried. You're clearly. She wanted to say, you're clearly pregnant. Why won't you let me tell anyone? Magpie, wipe your tears. Don't cry. I changed my clothes and, accompanied by my dowry maids and servants, went to the Roman hall of the Zhang family to take my leave. Over there, Han Yanming and Su Suyuan were also present, discussing arrangements for Su Suyuan's wedding. Seeing me enter, they all fell silent. I perfunctorily curtsied to Madame Zhang, who wore a stern expression and gave a cold snort. Nanny Wang deliberately called out loudly, Miss, our eldest master has arrived with his men to escort you. Very well, Nanny Wang. Have the eldest master and his men meticulously check every item on my dowry list. What belongs to me must not be missing, and what is not mine, I will not accept. Oh, and later, I'll need Nanny Wang to send someone to purchase an abortion potion for me. I reached my hand to my lower abdomen and said coldly, "This bastard of the Han family, I certainly don't want it either." Instantly, both Zhang Shi and Han Yanming's expressions changed. Even Su Suyuan stood there with her mouth wide open, unable to close it. Every servant in Rongan Hall wore an odd expression. I was already supporting Magpie to leave when Han Yanming stepped across to block my path. His face was ashen as he demanded, "Jiang Ying, you're pregnant? When did this happen? How could I not know?" Beside me, my maid Magpie sneered coldly, "Your Highness, the day our mistress was diagnosed with pregnancy was the very day you brought Miss Su back, accusing our mistress of 3 years of barrenness and demanding a divorce." "Impossible!" Just as I was about to leave with my maidservants and attendants, Lady Zhang suddenly bellowed, "Stop her, I had instructed my attendants earlier, should conflict arise with the Han family in Rongan Hall today, show no restraint, use every skill you possess." So when the servants of Rongan Hall tried to block my way, my entire entourage began cursing and fighting back. Amidst the chaotic brawl, several Chinyo guards suddenly burst in, brandishing long swords and bellowing, "Cease this immediately! His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Minister Jiang have arrived." A faint smile touched my lips. So today, not only had my elder brother come, but he had also brought the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince wore a moon-white robe, while my elder brother was clad in a deep indigo one. Both stood tall and graceful, their features strikingly handsome. My elder brother's face was stern as he demanded, "What is this? Does the Marquis of Inding's household truly stand above the law? Must you treat people with such contempt?" Seeing the Crown Prince arrive, accompanied by the Chinyo guards, Han Yanming, despite his usual insolence, hurriedly joined the others in paying their respects. "What is this?" the Crown Prince demanded. "Han Yanming, you took up with a merchant's daughter outside your marriage, abandoned your wife to remarry. Now that you've divorced Lady Jiang, why won't you let him leave?" Han Yanming's face went pale. He glanced at me but ultimately said nothing. Zhang Shi, however, was utterly clueless. She hastily knelt before the Crown Prince and said, "Your Highness, allow this humble woman to report." "Speak," the Crown Prince replied coldly. "This Jiang woman is wicked and malicious," Zhang gritted out. Now that matters had escalated to this point, Zhang made no effort to conceal her hostility toward me, stating bluntly, "She is pregnant with the flesh and blood of the Han family, yet she intends to abort the child." The Crown Prince cut her off before she finished. "Lady Jiang is pregnant? Is this true?" Zhang Shi hesitated. After all, whether I was truly pregnant was merely my word against hers, she couldn't guarantee it. But having been married to Han Yanming for 3 years, Zhang Shi knew me well enough to understand I never lied. So when I said I was pregnant, she believed me without question. When I said I wanted to abort the child, she believed that too. The Han family sought to divorce Jiang Shi after 3 childless years, only to now claim she is pregnant? The Crown Prince sneered. What exactly does the Han family intend to do? Su Suyuan, who had remained silent, hurriedly interjected, "Your Highness, please calm your anger. Jiang Ying merely used this claim to provoke Yanming. There's no pregnancy whatsoever." I noticed that as Su Suyuan spoke these words, her eyes darted restlessly toward the Crown Prince's face. Even in my previous life, I observed that Su Suyuan was unlike other women confined to the inner chambers. She seemed to have no sense of propriety between the sexes, nor any shame. When looking at men, she cared only for those with handsome features. "How dare you?" the Crown Prince snapped. "I am speaking here, how dare you, a lowly merchant's daughter, interrupt so rudely?" Though rebuked by the Crown Prince, Su Suyuan still seemed about to speak, but Han Yanming pulled her away. My elder brother had already gathered men to inventory my dowry and escort me out. "Sister, father and mother are waiting for you at home. Are you truly not going back?" my brother asked. I shook my head slightly. A daughter who has married out, even if she divorces and returns home, will still be gossiped about, bringing shame upon her natal family. My father doted on my mother, and we still have 2 younger sisters yet to marry. In my previous life, it was precisely because I considered all these things that I refused to divorce under any circumstances. In this life, after my divorce, it would inevitably affect my 2 younger sisters' search for relatives as well. But I think, if that reckless man, who clearly knew Han Yanming had illicit relations with a woman without a matchmaker, still divorced me and then chose my two younger sisters. Such a family isn't worth keeping. Yet I won't simply return home either. After all, my brother is currently arranging a marriage. I can't disrupt his good fortune or cause trouble for my future sister-in-law. Brother, I have a residence in Huaji Alley. Though modest, it suffices for a single sister. It's also close to home. My brother, his eyes reddened, could not bear to see me suffer, yet found no words to comfort me. Please, brother, offer solace to mother. I added. Sister, rest assured. My brother replied. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince declared, Lingji need not worry. I shall leave 2 Qinyo guards to assist in caring for Sister Jiang. Lingji was my elder brother's courtesy name. I opened my mouth to refuse, but my brother had already offered his thanks. After settling in Flower Branch Alley, Magpie brought me medicine. My hand drifted to my lower abdomen, and I couldn't help but sigh softly. In my past life, this child had died so tragically. At 5 years old, he still had no formal name. I gave him the childhood nickname Tuanzi. Han Yanming had always refused to name him, naturally never recording him in the family registry. I understood his meaning. If my child were entered into the registry, it would mean he was the legitimate eldest son, destined to inherit the title. This was not something he wished to see. After Su Suyuan became pregnant, Han Yanming cherished her beyond measure. That day, little Doubal was playing by the gate of my small courtyard. Su Suyuan insisted he had bumped into her, causing her to experience fetal distress. Enraged, Han Yanming ordered several burly servants to forcibly drag my child out of my courtyard and subject him to the household law. He locked me in a dark room. A club as thick as an arm was brought down upon the child's body. Locked inside the room by Han Yanming, I could only hear my child's heart-wrenching cries outside. I used every ounce of strength to smash everything I could reach, yet still couldn't break the iron lock. Later, they tossed the barely alive little dumpling back to me. Holding him, I heard his faint cries of pain. I knelt on the floor begging Han Yanming, begging them to find a doctor for the child. But they locked both of us in the inner room, forbidding us to leave. Before dawn broke, the little dumpling drew his last breath. And my world was plunged into darkness. From that moment on, I fell gravely ill and never recovered. After being reborn, I once considered carrying this child to term and raising him alone. But I knew that as long as this child existed, the Han family would inevitably stir up trouble again. I resolutely took the abortion pills. That night, my abdomen twisted in agonizing pain. The instant that unformed fetus left my body, I suddenly felt a weight lift. Sweating profusely, I drifted into a dazed sleep. When I awoke, I saw my mother sitting at my bedside, wiping away tears. Her eyes were red and swollen. Mother! I cried out urgently. My child, you've suffered so much. Mother could hold back no longer. She embraced me and wept uncontrollably. I comforted her for a long time. She stayed with me until sunset before finally returning home. As she left, she reminded me that if I needed anything, I should simply have the servant send word to the mansion. She would see to it. I smiled brightly. The marriage was dissolved, and the fetus was terminated. All I needed now was to recuperate properly, then join forces with my elder brother, the Crown Prince, and others to utterly destroy the Han Yanming family. This lifetime, I would never allow the Han clan to prop up the third prince to the throne. Nor would I give them the chance to frame my father and brother for treason, condemning my entire Jiang family to exile. In my past life, the Crown Prince was falsely accused of plotting rebellion by the third prince, imprisoned, and stripped of his title. My elder brother served as the Crown Prince's tutor, and the two had always been exceptionally close. The Jiang family was inevitably caught in the crossfire. All relatives implicated in the Crown Prince's treason case were exiled. My mother caught a severe cold during the journey and passed away shortly after. The escort officers, captivated by my two sisters' beauty, harbored evil intentions once we left the capital. Both my sisters possessed fiery tempers and refused to endure such humiliation, taking their own lives. When word reached me, I knelt before Han Yanming, begging him to intercede with the third prince to allow my father and brothers to return to the capital. Instead, he kicked me hard in the chest, cursing, "You despicable creature. I told you to divorce him long ago. You relied on your father and brother's official positions to bully me, now, you'll suffer for it." I recuperated in the Flower Branch courtyard for over half a month, meticulously tended to by Nanny Wang and Magpie. Mother often visited through the back gate. My elder brother came too, occasionally bringing His Royal Highness the Crown Prince along. I assisted my brother and the Crown Prince as they began making urgent preparations. We sought to seize the initiative. This life, after all, was somewhat different from the last. Firstly, after my divorce, Han Yanming did not flee with Su Suyuan. After our divorce, Han Yanming intended to marry her into the family, but at this point, Lady Zhang objected. Lady Zhang disliked me precisely because I managed the household well and refused to give her my dowry to support her family. She despised me deeply. Thus, she constantly used filial piety to pressure and torment me. She didn't actually like Su Suyuan, she merely intended to use Su Suyuan to torment me. In her eyes, Su Suyuan was merely the daughter of a merchant family. How could she possibly be worthy of her son? First, she nitpicked Su Suyuan's dowry. Then, she went so far as to demand Su Suyuan enter the household as a concubine. But Su Suyuan was fiercely independent. How could she endure such humiliation? She caused an immediate uproar at the Dingen Marquis' residence. Having spent 3 years at the Dingen Marquis' estate, my maternal family's influence still held sway there, and I maintained informants within the household. I heard the Magpie return and recount every detail. Su Suyuan had smashed the entire Rongan Hall to pieces. That Zhang woman had never taught her son proper conduct, so Han Yanming's filial piety was merely a matter of saving face. In my past life, he left home for 3 years for Su Suyuan, proof enough of his devotion. Now, witnessing Lady Zhang's harassment of Su Suyuan, he issued a stern warning: he would marry no one but her this lifetime. Should Lady Zhang persist, he vowed never to return home. Lady Zhang calculated that once Su Suyuan entered the household, she could replicate her treatment of me, slowly tormenting, manipulating, and humiliating her. Thus, she consented to the marriage. Calculating the timing, the Dingen Marquis should be returning to the capital with the third prince by now. I instructed Magpie to have rumors spread throughout the neighborhood. Poor Dingen Marquis, no sooner had he returned to the capital than he learned Han Yanming had divorced me. And I was pregnant when Han Yanming divorced me, citing 3 years without bearing an heir. Now, Han Yanming was making a fuss about marrying a merchant's daughter. In an instant, the old Marquis was fuming with rage. Though the Marquis of Dingen was a military commander, he held no real power despite his title. Back then, to secure Han Yanming's marriage to me, he personally visited our Jiang family, humbling himself and pleading repeatedly. My father saw that Han Yanming was handsome and had no concubines or secondary wives. Though lacking in literary refinement, he seemed a suitable match, so my father agreed. Unexpectedly, 3 years after the marriage, while accompanying the third prince on a journey to Jiangnan, he returned to the capital only to discover that his unfilial son had divorced me. And now he intends to marry that merchant's daughter? Upon his return, without a word, he ordered Han Yanming brought before him and had him beaten severely. That night, my brother and the crown prince, disguised, came to the Huaji courtyard. I received them in the flower hall. The crown prince got straight to the point, just like my elder brother, calling me by my childhood name Ying. My third brother has returned to the capital. What should our next move be? I pondered for a moment before replying, find a way to arrange a meeting between him and Su Suyuan. At present, Su Suyuan had not yet married into the Dingen Marquis' household. The crown prince leaned back in his chair. After a long moment, he sighed, Ying, had you not said so, I would never have believed it of anyone else. My third brother, always gentle and refined as jade in his demeanor, actually plotted against his majesty. I smiled. The crown prince remained unchanged before me and my elder brother, always addressing himself as this one rather than I. Naturally, I wouldn't discuss such matters directly with His Royal Highness. Instead, I privately shared with my brother that during my 3 years at the Dingen Marquis' residence, I'd uncovered a secret concerning the Marquis and the third prince. Fearing I might be implicated, I insisted on a divorce at all costs. My elder brother, having grown up alongside His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, discreetly investigated. Thus, the third prince's petty schemes were laid bare. That said, a prince without ambition is hardly a proper prince. My brother frowned and said, Ying, Su Suyuan has already been involved with Han Yanming. The whole city is gossiping about them. At a time like this, would she really engage in such reckless behavior with the third prince? My brother was a pure soul who didn't understand Su Suyuan. In his mind, all young women were like us, well-educated, refined, gentle, and virtuous noble daughters. But Su Suyuan was not that sort. If she could consort with Han Yanming without a matchmaker, why would she care about the world's judgment? In her past life, after marrying Han Yanming, she once lamented, I was too hasty. Seeing Han Yanming, I thought him the most handsome man under heaven. Had I known the third prince was so strikingly handsome, why would I have bound myself to that Han man? Perhaps I could have even vied for the throne itself. What a pity, what a pity! I once heard her mutter, in the end, my script was incomplete. Alas, I was destined only to be a wealthy mistress, never to rule the realm. Thus, I knew ambition burned within her heart. This lifetime, I will grant her an opportunity to approach the third prince, to conspire with him in rebellion, to ensure she meets a fate so vile, she'll have no place to bury her remains. Ying, my brother and I have come today for another matter. The crown prince suddenly rose, stepped before me, and bowed deeply. Startled, I hastened to kneel in return. Your Highness, what is your proposal? I asked urgently. The crown prince spoke. Your brother and I have considered it, your current situation cannot endure. When you discussed marriage alliances, I inquired with your father. Yet the Minister of Rights stated that appointing you as my tutor would only deepen His Majesty's suspicion toward this crown prince. Should you marry into the Eastern Palace, the Emperor might suspect factionalism and treasonous plots within the crown prince's quarters. Therefore, it is absolutely impossible for you to become my crown princess. I married that girl from the Zhou family of Heong, she was truly excellent. Alas, she was not long-lived and passed away last winter. I wished to marry you, but your status was rather awkward. Thus, I devised a scheme of substitution. The crown prince's so-called substitution involved setting fire to the flower branch courtyard and then announcing to the world that I had perished in the flames. Then, I would enter the capital as my elder brother's cousin and marry him as crown princess. Upon hearing this, I bowed to the crown prince. Thank you for your deep affection, crown prince brother, but Jiang Ying dares not accept. Such a scheme is mere self-deception, how could it ever be concealed? When crown prince brother ascends the throne, how will the historians record this? How will the people of the realm speak of you? Hearing this, the crown prince stamped his foot in frustration and sighed deeply before rising to leave. After a long moment, he turned abruptly and declared, Ying, wait for me. This time, no one shall stand in the way of my marriage to you. Once the crown prince had departed, my elder brother sighed as well. He gazed at me for a long while before speaking. When your marriage was arranged, fearing the emperor might suspect the crown prince, father betrothed you to the Marquis of Dingen. Thus, he tore you and His Highness the crown prince apart. Now, I see he still treats you as before. Just the other day, he swore in the Eastern Palace that he would marry you. But since you refuse this scheme of shifting affections, you will only become a favored concubine in the future, forever denied the imperial consort's position. I smiled, and after a long pause, I replied, Brother, our family already holds the highest civil office, the pinnacle of ministerial power. For me to enter the palace as empress would ultimately be inappropriate. Hearing my words, my brother could only let out a long sigh and say, You are indeed the most perceptive of us all, little sister. It is just such a great injustice to you. Through arrangements by my brother and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, Su Suyuan and the third prince happened to meet. Not only was Su Suyuan beautiful, but her behavior was also eccentric and unpredictable, instantly capturing the third prince's attention. Upon learning the third prince's identity, Su Suyuan decisively terminated the pregnancy. A month later, the third prince's residence gained a new concubine. Han Yanming, beaten by the Marquis of Dingen, stayed home recuperating. When he recovered and sought out Su Suyuan, he learned his beloved had already married into the imperial family. He, having divorced me first, was then discarded by Su Suyuan. I learned the word discarded from Su Suyuan herself. All that effort, only to be laughed at by the entire capital, a complete waste of time. Listening to the magpies chattering away, bragging about the latest gossip from the Dingen Marquis mansion, I couldn't help but smile. Now that we're divorced, I can calmly watch the flowers fall in the courtyard while the neighbor's household is in utter chaos. Han Yanming probably never dreamed that the woman who swore eternal devotion to him, the one who never bothered with trivialities, who acted so wildly and arrogantly, had never truly liked him from the bottom of her heart. She only saw him as a target to conquer. In my past life, she told me just that, men are nothing but pawns to be used. Had he not been the heir to the Dingen Marquis, she wouldn't have spared him a glance even if he died by the roadside. This lifetime, with the crown prince and my elder brother's schemes, we gave Su Suyuan a ladder to climb. Naturally, she seized the opportunity to ascend. What use was Han Yanming? Han Yanming, fearless of death, stormed the third prince's residence and caused a scene, only to be beaten out by the prince's guards. Returning home, his rage only intensified. The entire capital was watching the spectacle at the Dingen Marquis' residence. Everyone called the Marquis' heir a cuckolded turtle. For a merchant's daughter, he had divorced the legitimate daughter of the Minister of State, intending to remarry her. Yet, the merchant's daughter had no interest in him either. She had climbed higher, marrying the third prince as his concubine. Han Yanming drank himself into a stupor, then stormed home to take his anger out on Lady Zhang. "Mother! If you hadn't obstructed my marriage to Su Yuan, she would have entered our household long ago. You constantly called her a lowly merchant's daughter, declaring that as long as you lived, she would never enter our home as a legitimate wife. Now she's married into the imperial family, and I've become the laughingstock of the capital. Are you satisfied?" Madame Zhang had only intended to manipulate Su Suyuan for a moment. Little did she know Su Suyuan was no ordinary woman, someone she could never control. Now, Madame Zhang was filled with regret. Yet she maintained her dignity, saying only, "A man of substance need never worry about finding a wife. In a few days, Mother will arrange a suitable match for you." I have no idea what Han Yanming was thinking, showing up at Huaxi Villa trying to reconcile with me. Coincidentally, my elder brother was accompanying His Royal Highness the Crown Prince that day. The Crown Prince saw Han Yanming and was already seething. Upon learning his purpose, he sneered coldly, "Han Yanming, you dare covet a woman belonging to the sovereign? Have you grown tired of living?" With that, he ordered the Qianyo guards to beat Han Yanming senseless. I didn't go out to watch the commotion, but I did sneak a peek. The Crown Prince feared causing a fatality in public. After all, Han Yanming was the heir to the Dingen Marquis, so he only had him beaten until he couldn't move. They carried him away and sent him back to the Dingen Marquis. Han Yanming passed out from the pain multiple times. After that, he seemed to lose his mind. He spent his days carousing in taverns and gambling dens, or causing trouble in brothels. A year later, the third prince plotted rebellion. He used black powder to blast open the imperial city gates, forcing the old emperor to abdicate. But my elder brother and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince had prepared long ago. Ultimately, my elder brother led the imperial guards to cut off the third prince's retreat. The Crown Prince, however, had mobilized his forces long before, lying in wait for the third prince. Commanding the third prince's troops was none other than the Marquis of Dingen. Seeing the tide had turned against him, he drew his sword and slit his own throat. In his dying moments, he cursed Han Yanming and Lady Zhang with all his might. "What misfortune befell our family, to produce such a rebellious son?" He abandoned his virtuous wife and children, choosing instead that vile, filthy creature. And my wife of humble origins, I knew her ignorance, yet cherished our marriage vows, unable to bear divorcing her. Unexpectedly, our once happy home was torn apart. This old man has offended the Minister of the Secretariat, offended His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, offended all the scholars of the realm. Wealth and honor come from taking risks. This old man has no choice but to fight to the end. With these words, the old man, who had spent his life on the battlefield, turned his blade upon himself. The third prince was stripped of his title and imprisoned in the heavenly prison. Su Suyuan was also thrown into the dungeons. The Han family's treasonous plot naturally led to the execution of every member. I heard that Han Yanming, imprisoned in the heavenly dungeon, kept clamoring to see me. That night, I changed my clothes and went to the dungeon. I had little desire to see Han Yanming himself. I only wished to see Su Suyuan. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I desperately wanted to know, where on earth did this ghost come from? I went to see Han Yanming first. As a condemned prisoner in the heavenly cells, his treatment was naturally the worst. He had rambled incoherently during several court sessions, offending the presiding judge and earning severe torture. His legs had been crushed by the leg-splitting device. Now, upon seeing me, he crawled on the ground to the cell door. "Ying, you've come." That night after returning, I had a dream. I dreamed of our past life, we never divorced, and we had a child. This big. He gestured with his hands, struggling to explain. He'd call me Daddy. So pink and delicate, such a handsome face, he looked like me, but had your eyes. Oh, and you gave him a nickname, Little Dumpling. Ying, in our next life, will you marry me? He looked up at me, his eyes full of hope. I smiled, but tears fell from my eyes. Han Yanming, why didn't you tell me how Little Dumpling died? You locked me in that dark room and beat him to death with that thick, long stick, blow after blow. He screamed Daddy in agony, crying and begging you, crying out in pain. And you? You said he was just a lowly bastard, unworthy of being called Daddy. That night, I knelt begging you to find a doctor outside. Little Dumpling might still have a chance. You locked me away. He cried out, "It hurts." All night long. Han Yanming, a man like you is unworthy of being a husband or a father. You are unworthy of being human. In all my lifetimes as Jiangying, there will never be a scum like you. At this point, I paused and sneered coldly. Han Yanming, the minister of the Supreme Court, was my father's disciple. So I spent a little money to ensure that before you die, you too will experience the taste of the board and the iron tongs. He tilted his head back, straining to look at me. After a long while, he said, "So, you've returned too." Han Yanming, I'm not here to see you. I just want to see Su Suyuan. I sneered, wondering what her background was. With that, I turned and walked toward the women's prison. Su Suyuan wasn't in good shape either. She was covered in bruises, her hair disheveled, leaning against the wall. Seeing me, she suddenly smiled. "Who are you?" I asked bluntly. Su Suyuan reached up to smooth her disheveled hair and smiled. "I'm leaving today. So I hope you'll come to see me off." This time, the time traveler hadn't been able to defeat the aristocratic noblewoman. But this wasn't my fault. It was because this virtual space had malfunctioned, causing time to reverse. You saw through it first. I looked at her, piecing together past and present, and asked seriously, "You're from the future?" "Yes." Su Suyuan nodded. "I come from a future of peace and prosperity, where material abundance is limitless and technology is supremely advanced." My voice grew cold as I said, "If you return, never come back again. Do not disrupt our order." With that, I turned and walked away. On the second day after I went to the dungeon, Su Suyuan died. It was said her corpse was somewhat strange. I suppose she was different after all. May these time travelers from the future never come again. Han Yanming was sentenced to be beheaded and dismembered. Before his execution, he kept muttering, "I deserve it, I deserve it." The old emperor, shaken by the events, fell gravely ill and passed away 6 months later. His Imperial Highness the Crown Prince ascended the throne. I entered the palace as the legitimate daughter of the Jiang clan and was granted the title of Imperial Consort a year later. A court censor accused me, "How can a discarded woman of the Han clan serve His Majesty?" My elder brother gave him a thorough dressing down. I know not what my future years will bring, nor if another time-traveling woman will appear to disrupt this world. In this life, I only pray for wealth, honor, and peace, to live safely until old age. The end.